instead of saying thank you and you've been so kind to us, and there were no human rights groups to protect us, and yet we flourished in your countries, they vilify them and call them anti-Semitic. You hate Jews and on. As a Jew, you're not allowed to attempt to leave exile. You're not allowed to return en masse to the Holy Land. You're not allowed to rebel against any nation. A Jew is required to show gratitude for good done for us. For instance, Moses, it says God smited the Egyptians with 10 plagues, right? And one of the first plague that he gave them was that the water in the Nile turned to blood. The Pharaoh had put a decree that they should kill all the male Jewish children. But his mother and his sister, they took him and they put him in a wicker basket and put him in the Nile to protect him. So when the Almighty said to Moses that you should smite the water, it should turn into water, he said, I can't smite the water. It's what hid me, kept me alive. We teach this to every child. You have to always show appreciation. Imagine, not only to water, not only to a human being, and certainly to a human being. Now, when we were being harassed and murdered in Europe by Christian society, they tried to convert the Jews into Christianity, and we died. We were burnt at the stake by the Inquisition and on. The Muslim countries were the ones that took the Jews in. They embraced the Jews. They gave us a safe haven throughout the Muslim world. So we, as a Jew, are required to show gratitude, never forget, and show gratitude for this. But the Zionists, in order to create their Zionist state, they have to have an excuse why they're hounding and they're harassing the Palestinian people.
Hoje é um episódio histórico. Hoje é um episódio histórico na história do Brasil, na história da comunidade muçulmana, na história da comunidade judaica, na história das relações islamo-judaicas aqui no Brasil. Nós temos aqui... esse episódio é histórico, né? A gente está aqui unidos para fazer história. E a gente tem um convidado aqui que é uma pessoa de uma imensa bagagem na defesa da justiça, da verdade histórica e da amizade entre os povos, que é o nosso Rabino Weiss, que veio visitar a gente hoje. Nossa conversa, vocês vão assistir, ela vai ser em inglês, tá? Vamos colocar legendas e vocês vão poder ler as legendas, porque o nosso Rabino, ele tá chegando no Brasil hoje, ainda não conhece o português. So, we are proceeding the conversation in English.
First thing is I pray to the Almighty to bestow upon me His truth, His wisdom, that He may that He make me worthy of conveying His message, and so I can sanctify His name and inshallah bring peace to the world.
We Muslims and Jews, we have a very shared history of peace, and I, as a student of history, I never saw a people who have less wars living together than Jews and Muslims.
Listen, we were
for
always
so many centuries.
Yeah, I always carry a few pictures of how we lived together, Jews and Muslims, always lived together without any human rights groups to protect. It wasn't necessary. With a distinctly different religion, we believe in one God and we have many similarities, but it's a different, and it still wasn't an impediment to coexistence.
To coexistence. And I want to ask you, Rabbi.
Before you ask me, I'm sorry.
No problem. Go ahead.
I'm going to try very concise. So basically, Judaism is uphold the Torah. We were sent into exile because we were not on that level required. So 3,000 years ago was the religion. 2,000 years ago we were sent into exile. The Almighty foresaw there'll be people who'll be impatient with the exile. He put us under 3 oaths. That we should not rebel, we should not return en masse, we should not rebel against any nations, we never to make, and thirdly, not to make any attempt to leave exile. On top of that, Jews are required to show gratitude to people who are good to us. Now, we went through the last 1,000 years of an Inquisition and crusades, so much suffering in Europe. And where did the Jews go when we were banished from the lands and when we ran away from lands? It was the Muslim and Arab countries that embraced the Jews and gave us a safe haven, a land and to flourish in, a homeland to live in amongst all, like I say, go through the whole list, from including the Ottoman Empire in Palestine. So Jews are required, as it says in our Torah, basics of the Torah, to show gratitude, to repay with good for the good done to us. So now we have all these concepts that I've mentioned with God's help. Zionism comes along. It's a mere movement of people, a political movement that started around 140 years ago. Let's say, they were a group of people who came from Reform Jews, people who dropped the religion. They didn't keep the Sabbath, they didn't eat kosher as a general rule, and they decided they want to have their own homeland. They decided Reform Judaism was trying to assimilate. They said they're going to reform the religion, and they're going to stop dressing as a Jew, and they're not going to keep the laws, and they're going to be accepted in the society. It didn't work out well for them because you can't outsmart God. That's not the solution. The way to be protected by God is by keeping His Torah. But basically, so that children and grandchildren, there were some of them, or many of them, decided this assimilation of Reform Judaism isn't working for us because there's still anti-Semitism. So they said it's the works of Satan, because there was just an excuse. But
step by step, changing everything.
So they're going to make their own homeland. That's going to be the protection. And they were thinking of Uganda, Patagonia, different areas to make the homeland, because it was rich. In those days, it was before technology, so you needed a lush land. But then, in the 1890s, they had a meeting in Switzerland, Basel, Switzerland, where they decided, no, you need massive support of other countries in order to create a state. So they're going to go to Palestine, and they'll tell the people, hey, God gave us, this is the children of Israel. Remember, we went out of Egypt, and the Christians study this, and the Muslim people study this. So, hey, we got to have this land because it's godly given to us. So they waved the Torah as a deed to the land and claimed the rights. Many of them knew, and they were very well aware, because they had come from maybe a Jewish education. They knew that it's expressly forbidden for Jews to attempt to leave exile. The ones who didn't know became aware. So basically, when they decided to say, so their whole concept is rooted in blasphemy. We need our own protection, and God can't protect us. When they're doing it, when they came to its fruition, they're breaching the laws that you shouldn't return en masse, which they call everybody, make the aliyah, they call it aliyah, come on up. Eschalta de geula, beginning of redemption. So the oath that you shouldn't go up en masse, the oath that you shouldn't rebel against nations, of course they breached that because they picked a land that to their detriment, it was inhabited by the most of the people were Muslims. So how do they get rid of this? So they have to vilify these people and say that they're only there because and they're against the Jewish settlements because they hate Jews. So basically they're starting to fight against the nations, which is the second oath, do not rebel against nations. And thirdly, they keep on saying which the third oath is not to attempt to leave exile. They all call themselves Eschalta de Geula, beginning of redemption. On top of that, we are to always remember the good that was done to us. In the Ottoman Empire, in all the Arab and Muslim countries, we were taken in. So how dare they, in order to realize their dream of a homeland, they have to make a narrative. They have to invent a narrative that the Muslims hate the Jews. So by doing this, they're vilifying the same people that were so kind to us and took us in when we were being harassed and murdered in Europe. We are not dealing with a conflict between Jews and Muslims. We are not dealing with a conflict between the religion, Islam, and Judaism. We are not dealing with any conflict between Jews and Arabs or anything, people living in Palestine. We are dealing with a corrupt, selfish occupation of a people who had a dream to create a land, a dream that was driven by the Satan. That is what we're dealing with. You have to confront the fact, and then you can start dealing with how we can solve the problem. The world, I'm with a white beard, like you say, I remember maybe 40 years ago, we were talking about that the rich Muslim and Arab countries should put advertisements, because they don't take any articles about this, but they should put in advertisements about anecdotes, people talking about their private stories about how they live together, Jews and Muslims, and talk about this. So people, instead of hearing the constant barrage of the news, the media that says that the Arabs, they're trying to kill the Jews, and we need this. This is a solution.
Look, the Muslims and the Arab, they have a history of the global establishment of Jewry. How? First of all, in Islam, we have a very, very important institution called Waqf. It's a charitable institution. The first Waqf of Islam was built with the help of a rabbi, Rabbi Mukhayriq, who died in the Battle of Uhud. Go read the history of At-Tabari, was one of the first Muslim historians. This rabbi, he gave to Prophet Muhammad as a donation the money who was enough to build our first Waqf. And then we have many other rabbis who helped to establish the early Muslim community, like Rabbi Abdullah bin Salam, one of the greatest rabbis of the early Muslim community. Our Prophet, peace be upon him, he had a Jewish wife. That came from a Jewish tribe where she was a princess, because the Arab Jews, they have a different tribal structure. And when she got to Medina, to the city of the Prophet, other women started to mock her because of her Jewish ancestry. And she came to complain to the Prophet. And what he said? Oh, they are right, you are a Jew. No. He said, be proud, you are a descendant of Aaron, of Harun. You are the descendant of Moses. And also, you are wife of Muhammad. And so the Prophet raised her status for being descendant of the old patriarchs. This is what our Prophet did. You know, this is how a Muslim need to behave. It's the best example is this example.
The level of respect he had with the Jewish community.
Once the Prophet saw in front of him a Jewish funeral procession, and he got up paying respect to the body of the dead Jew who was in front of him. And the people asked, oh, Messenger of God, this is a Jew. And the Messenger of God said, he's a human being. Knowing the shared humanity between them. This is what our Prophet do. He get up when they saw a Jewish procession. The Jewish didn't ask him to do this. He was not obligated to do this. He don't need, to do this for politics, because the Jewish, they are walking. They are not seeing him. But he got up. It's a body, descendant of Adam, for the original man who share, a human family. And this is what we need to revive. Yeah. When the Caliph Omar, he entered Jerusalem, the Jews have been banished from them by the Romans.
Yes.
He brought the Jews back, and he kept the Jews there. When the Muslims, they entered in Spain, 2 decades before the Muslims arrived, the Visigoths, they have expelled the Jews, and if a Jewish children was born in a Jewish family, they were taken as a slave to a Christian family. People love to talk about Tariq ibn Ziyad, who was a very famous Muslim conqueror, but people never talk about his general, who was a Jew, Kaula the Jew. He was with him, and he helped him in the conquering of Spain. And the Muslims, they don't just, Jews now can live in peace. No, they brought Jews with them Whenever they go, they say, "Oh, now you said you clean this place of Jews. I will bring more Jews." When the Crusaders, they expelled the Jews from the Holy Land. Right. First, you have Nuruddin Zenki, and his father Zenki, bringing Jews first to Edessa, from Mosul in Iraq to Edessa. It's not like you are conquering a place and saying to the people living there, "Oh, you need to still live." No, I will bring Jews. Jews are needed here. They are our loyal subjects. And every place that Muslims conquer or reconquer, they brought Jews with them. And also Rambam, Maimonides, he go to the Holy Land and he served on the court of Salahuddin. Saladin. Yeah, he was on his court. He was his position. Right. Muslim leaders, they gave to the Jewish people their very own safekeeping. Because if you have a personal doctor, he can kill you, he can poison you, he can do everything to you. And the Muslims, it's not like an exception. Yeah. The Muslims, they choose the most, high-ranking rabbis, like Maimonides, like Joseph Nassi on the Ottoman Empire, like many others, and gave the life of the state and the children to the Jews. They do this. If you go to the history of Spain in Al-Andalus, you have countless of prime minister Jews in Muslim kingdoms. Yeah. Sometimes fighting in competing Muslim kingdoms have two Jewish prime ministers, and they both fight against each other, leading Muslim armies. People don't know about this history. That is famous Shamuel bin Nagrila, who was a very, very high-ranking rabbi. He got the title of Nasi, Prince of the Jews of Spain. And if you go to Baghdad, the same thing. This is a destruction of our relationship that is happening.
De acordo com vários relatórios internacionais, nas últimas 3 décadas, organizações evangélicas investiram entre 300 milhões e 1 bilhão de dólares na promoção da demonização, desinformação e campanhas de ódio contra a comunidade muçulmana nos países do Ocidente.
Essa conversa de islamofobia é conversa para boi dormir, eu não sou boi.
Como resultado, diversos genocídios como o que ocorre agora em Gaza puderam ser perpetrados impunemente, pois as vítimas já não eram consideradas como dignas de empatia para o público geral. Das pregações,
islamismo demoníaco, adora um demônio, Alá é um demônio.
As músicas gospel,
Maomé escreveu o Alcorão, livro de ódio dos muçulmanos, terror de ira, de pedofilia.
Essa propaganda se difunde também no Brasil, levando a consequências reais para centenas de muçulmanos.
Até chegar ao extremo dele me pegar na porta da empresa e me agredir fisicamente. Ele deformou meu rosto, ele arrancou 8 dentes.
Diante deste cenário, eu, Mansur Peixoto, assumi como missão da minha vida uma tarefa: combater a desinformação contra a comunidade muçulmana e o Islã neste país. Fundei em 2013 o projeto História Islâmica e hoje se dedica todos os dias à produção de documentários, artigos acadêmicos, reportagens, vídeos informativos, entrevistas e palestras na luta contra o preconceito. Porém, temos um desafio: financiamento. Para manter a nossa equipe de profissionais especializados produzindo conteúdos todos os dias, contamos apenas com você. Torne-se um apoiador do nosso projeto através do Pix, contato@historiaislamica.com.br, ou um doador recorrente através da benfeitoria. E vamos juntos lutar pela disseminação do conhecimento. História Islâmica com Mansur Peixoto.
Here in Brazil, we have a very famous Jewish TV presenter. He's a very, very famous guy called Silvio Santos. Yeah? He's descendant of a very long lineage of rabbis that started in Spain. His actual name was Senor because he was descendant of Abraham Senior, who was one of the greatest rabbis of Castile. When the Inquisition started to persecute his family, he took the help of the Ottomans, from the Sultan Bayezid, and then he traveled all the way from Spain to the Ottoman Empire, and he lives there in Thessalonica, in Greece, for years and years and hundreds of years, his family growing, and he was a very prosperous man. And then he come to Brazil, he's still become very prosperous man. And these people now in the same television that is only possible because of this story of cooperation between Muslims and Jews, they are saying that, oh no, Muslims are enemies of the Jews. They can't live together. They are enemy people. They say that we are fighting for thousands of years. This is what they tell. Yeah, it's insanity. Yeah. We have even Muslims and Jewish pirates who have alliances to protect, in the Mediterranean Sea, the Jewish refugees who come. There is a very, very famous one, Sinan Reis. He was a Jewish pirate with a Muslim pirate called Khizir Reis. So they started an alliance to protect both Muslims and Jews persecuted in Spain. So this is a very amazing history. People don't know about this, all this stuff. Yeah, if you read the details of the history, it's almost like a movie, but it's real history. Yeah. Look at the founder of Israel, Ben Gurion. In which army he first served? On the army of the Ottoman Empire. He wore a fez before he was a Zionist politician. He was fighting on the side of the Ottomans. Jews were praying for the victory of the Ottomans against the Russians. For the Russians were doing, horrible things, horrible pogroms against the Jews on Russia. So this is the reality. Muslim armies always protected the Jewish subjects and citizens, and in Damascus, in the city of Damascus in Syria. One thing that is very beautiful, there are many Jewish palaces. They still, today, even with all, the bloodshed of wars and everything, they are still there. And this is the legacy, legacy of this history. Yeah. You go there. When the last Muslim king of Spain departed, Muhammad Boabdil, as he's known, he signed a letter and he gave to Queen Isabella, and he said, please grant the safekeeping of Jews also and Muslims, but Jews also. He was not looking only for Muslims. In the letter, he write this. But of course, when he go out, the Inquisition come and do all the barbarity. Yeah. So Muslims, even the last act of a Muslim king in Spain was trying to sign out the protection of Jews. Yeah.
We put out a book called Traditional Torah Opposition to Zionism. We have many documents of our rabbis, even in the 1920s, the chief rabbi of Palestine in the 1920s. Again, not to be confused with the Zionist rabbinate, which is just window dressing and a farce. But Rabbi Zonfeld met with the king of Transjordan, the Amir of where here this. You can see that.
Very famous picture.
And in the 1920s, where he said, we are not aspiring for a state. We Jews, we respect your holy places. He was talking about that the attack on Al-Aqsa Mosque. He said, we are totally, opposed to. This is a picture, by the way, in 1948 of Ben Zion Chazan. Ben Zion Chazan was the Sephardic, one of the Sephardic leading rabbis, and he went out with a white flag to the Jordanians to give over the Jewish community in 1948. The Zionists said, come fight with us. They said they refused. So they shot him. The Zionists shot him, and he had a bullet in his leg his whole life. He went out with a white flag to give over the Jewish community, the Jordanians, and they protected the Jewish community the whole time during the war. I speak many times the disrespect that the Zionists have for the human body. Here I have so many different. We have compilations all the time of Jewish people. They dig up graves. They have no respect for the dead because they don't have godliness. So for archaeological purposes, they dig up graves. Right now, while I'm here, there's Ya'ud. There's a place called Ya'ud in Palestine. I don't know where exactly because I'm not living there. It's one of the towns in occupied Palestine. and there's blood spilling there of Jewish people because they dig up graves because they want to make if they want to make a highway or a hotel, they have no problems with digging up, or they're archaeological because they know the Jews lived there. This rabbi lived there exactly so many years ago, so it's a boon. It's easy to so they study the body, and they do this without any respect for the dead. Well, I went to Egypt, and in Egypt they made the ring road because of so much traffic. They made a road around Cairo. And in order to do that, though, there's a massive Jewish cemetery because Jews lived there for all these hundreds and hundreds of years. So
more than 2,000 years.
Right. So in order not to disturb the graves, they made pillars, and it cost millions of dollars in order not to disturb the graves. Nobody talks about that. They didn't make a big issue of it, simply because they didn't want to disturb the graves. Israel, they Kvush 6, an extension, they ripped right through the, and you see the pictures of how Jewish rabbis and this standing there being brutally beaten by the Zionists. You have to go to our site to see these are smaller pictures. I should blow them up. You should be able to see how they're brutally being beaten because they're standing in the by the Zionists, and while they're trying to stop them from digging up graves. They're standing in this scoop of the tractor in order to stop them, but they don't care. They continue doing it. It's beyond comprehension the way they brutally beat them. You see the
Our
soldiers.
Prophet, he teaches us that you break the bone of a dead person is like to break a bone of a living person.
Yeah.
You need to respect the remainings of people. You don't, even your enemy, you cannot strike him in the face. You're not desecrating the bodies,
Right.
taking part. This is impermissible because this is the image of our father Adam. You cannot, desecrate this image.
The coming of the Zionists and introducing themselves into the beautiful fabric of the Holy Land is criminal, is against God, and it's not Jewish. Jews and Muslims and Christians lived together. The largest populace was the Muslims. The second was the Christians, and then there were the Jews. We were living together, babysitting each other's children. In fact, I was just today on a Zoom conference with a rabbi who's 5 generations Palestinian, Rabbi Beck. He lives in London.
Elhanan Beck. I know him. I
I
love to watch his videos.
And he spoke about how his mother, who's in the 90s, she lived to 120, she lives in my neighborhood in New York, and that she keeps on talking about how they babysat each other. They live together, Muslims and Jews. They babysat the most precious objects, like you spoke, their lives.
Yeah.
They babysat the Muslim children, and they gave their children when they had to go to Yom Kippur to shul, whatever, to the Muslim neighbors. So they babysat each other's children. They live together in peace. So comes the Zionists, and they want to create a narrative that we have a religious conflict that's totally bogus. Our hearts are crying with the people of Gaza, Palestine, Jews around the world. We are frustrated that it's being perpetrated in our name. Spread the word around. Do what you can, please. We cannot rest as long as this this terrible carnage in Gaza. Try to spread our word where you can. Call us wherever we can. We'd come to educate in universities and so on, and try to put pressure on your politicians, and let the people in Gaza know you're in support. And one day we will, inshallah, soon, maybe today, with God's compassion,
Amen.
Inshallah, we will live together in peace again, as we've had for so many hundreds of years in a free Palestine. Thank you.
Outra surpresa em Teherã é este endereço que me deram. Pertence a um antiquário. Eu pensei que no Irã pessoas como ele estivessem escondidas, como as obras do Warhol e Varazé, mas parece que não estão não. Olá!
Olá! Bem-vindo! Bem-vindo!
Obrigado!
Bonjour! Bonjour, monsieur! Olá, senhor! Vive la France!
Viva a França! Chá? Vodka? Baba Moshi é judeu.
Okay, so...
Temos vodka na República Islâmica do Irã.
Okay. Os judeus podem beber, mas os muçulmanos não.
Saúde! Foi você quem fez?
Sim, é feita em casa, com uvas.
Temos aqui álcool e mulheres nuas. Está claro que este é um lugar diferente em Teherã. É fácil ser judeu aqui?
Sim, aqui é muito bom. Eles nos respeitam. O resto são mentiras. Aqui nos divertimos com os muçulmanos. Rimos juntos e ninguém nos incomoda. Logicamente, não posso me embebedar na frente dos mulás. Mas os iranianos são ótimos.
Na verdade, para os judeus e outras minorias religiosas, os tempos foram difíceis depois da Revolução Islâmica. Hoje a situação está melhor. Há sinagogas aqui em Teherã?
Sim, há 25 sinagogas em Teherã.
25 sinagogas? Eu posso visitar uma?
Foto!
Foto! Agora eu posso ir a uma sinagoga. Estou no coração de Teherã, na capital da República Islâmica. E esse é um lugar onde eu nunca achei que fosse usar um kippah. Estou numa das maiores sinagogas da cidade. E confesso que é difícil imaginar que existe uma comunidade judaica em um país onde o presidente diz que quer destruir Israel. Fui convidado por Siamak Mersedi, um dos pilares da comunidade judaica. É absolutamente incrível. Eles trouxeram a Torá. Confesso que jamais pensei em ver essas cenas no Irã. É realmente incrível conhecer um iraniano judeu. Não pensei ser possível. Como é ser judeu no Irã?
É preciso lembrar que os judeus iranianos vivem no Irã há mais de 30 séculos. Não é um fenômeno interessante, mas pode ser interessante ser a maior população de judeus no Oriente Médio depois de Israel, é claro. Ser a minoria religiosa em um país religioso acarreta alguns problemas, mas não são grandes.
As pessoas comparam um pouco as condições dos judeus daqui com as dos judeus na Alemanha antes da guerra.
Não há comparação entre elas, porque na Alemanha eles tiveram de enfrentar o regime fascista e o racismo. Mas no Irã não existe nenhum regime fascista. Talvez haja alguns conflitos entre o governo do Irã e Israel, mas isso não afeta a vida dos judeus iranianos, porque, segundo o pensamento iraniano, para o governo e também para o povo iraniano, existe uma separação distinta entre o sionismo e o judaísmo. Os conflitos políticos entre o governo iraniano e o sionismo não afetam o dia a dia dos judeus iranianos.
Existe uma mistura entre a cultura iraniana e o judaísmo.
Correto. Existe uma combinação entre a cultura iraniana e a judaica que você pode observar em muitas sinagogas iranianas.
Mersedi quer me mostrar outro templo em Teherã, o templo da política. Bem-vindos ao parlamento iraniano. A Constituição aqui garante que cada minoria étnica e religiosa tenha uma cadeira no parlamento. E Mersedi representa os 25 mil judeus do Irã. Aqui estou eu no parlamento iraniano, e o que me surpreendeu sobre o Irã é que se trata de uma democracia. É uma democracia islâmica, tem suas próprias regras, mas continua sendo uma democracia. Na região, a outra grande democracia é Israel. Logicamente, também com suas próprias regras. A Mercedes não faltam palavras, mas ele nunca se afasta muito da linha política iraniana. Você também sente a vontade do Irã se tornar uma potência mundial?
É claro que o Irã é uma potência, pelo menos na região do Oriente Médio. E ninguém pode fazer nada nessa região sem respeitar os benefícios do povo iraniano e da nação iraniana, claro.
Então o Irã é uma democracia?
Sim.
Israel também é uma democracia?
Sim.
Então por que estas duas democracias não conseguem chegar a um acordo?
Israel é um país novo, formado pelas forças de fora da região. Mas o Irã é um país antigo, cuja história data de centenas de anos. Então, não pode haver comparação entre os dois. É claro que em Israel você pode dizer que uma das diferenças é que as pessoas são vítimas de homicidas, da intolerância e da obrigação.
Quer dizer os palestinos?
Sim.
Acho que é a primeira vez na vida que ouço um judeu criticar Israel.
Não é a primeira vez. Acho que você pode ter seu ponto de vista. Pode ver muitas pessoas na população judaica em diferentes partes do mundo criticando Israel. Por exemplo, Noam Chomsky e outras pessoas. Por exemplo, a Associação Progressiva de Judeus na Europa, que foi originalmente criada para lutar contra o fascismo.